Have you ever wondered why there are women who do not need to say much, do not need to show off, and yet their presence alone makes others feel at peace? There is something in them, invisible, elusive, that has the power to soothe tension, uplift the spirit, and even stir within us a sense of touching the sacred. Carl Jung once emphasized that there are powers not outwardly visible, but which nonetheless shape the way we live, love, and connect. For women, this is even more apparent. They carry within them layers of wisdom woven from intuition, experience, and attunement to the invisible world. It is not a loud strength, but a subtle, unseen quality, whose influence is lasting and profound. In today's video, we will explore the 8 invisible traits of women with high spiritual intelligence. These traits not only help them live fully in alignment with their true selves, but also make them a quiet source of light in life, illuminating the path for themselves and those around them. If you have ever felt something special within yourself but could not name it, perhaps you will find the answer here. Let us journey through this together, to recognize that spiritual wisdom is not something distant, but quietly flowing within you. Number 1. The ability to read invisible energy. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately sensed that something was wrong? No one said anything, everyone was still smiling and chatting, yet the atmosphere carried a heaviness that made it hard to breathe. Or sometimes you meet someone for the first time, they act cheerful and friendly, but deep within you, a voice whispers, "There is something false here." Strangely enough, months later, you discover that your first intuition was entirely correct. This is exactly the capacity Carl Jung called the superior feeling function, a higher form of the feeling function, completely different from ordinary sensitivity or impulsive emotional reactions. Women with high spiritual intelligence often naturally possess this ability. They always sense the atmosphere that is unfolding, whether it is tense, cold, loving, or insincere. A friend once told me about her grandmother who lived through wartime, a period of constant uncertainty. Just by hearing the footsteps of someone approaching from afar, she could already tell who it was, whether they carried good news or disaster. This ability was not merely sharpness of senses, but a survival instinct accumulated through generations of women. They read energy not because they want to, but because they must, to protect themselves and their loved ones. And that ability, like an invisible current, continues to be passed down to the present day. Yet, this gift does not come without cost. To read energy also means to feel far more than necessary. At a party, while others feel only joy, they also perceive envy in someone's eyes, insecurity in a smile, and fatigue in a voice. After each social encounter, they may feel utterly drained, as though they had lived through the emotions of many people at once. Some women even share, "I hate going to crowded markets. Not because I fear noise, but because I always return exhausted, as if I carried home a dozen worries that were not mine." This is the paradox of women with high spiritual intelligence. They see too much, feel too much, and so at times only want to withdraw to preserve a bit of peace for themselves. Imagine you own a vintage radio that can pick up every frequency at once. An ordinary person tunes into one channel to listen to music, but for you, every frequency plays simultaneously: laughter, crying, fear, anger. The ability to read energy works in the same way, both a gift and a challenge. It gives you the chance to deeply understand, but can also drown you in a chaos of emotions that are not your own. The key is to learn to distinguish between what is yours and what belongs to others. A woman with high spiritual intelligence does not have to carry everyone's emotions. On the contrary, when she learns to observe without absorbing, she becomes a truthful mirror. Her very presence becomes a reminder to others. Live true to your emotions. As Jung once wrote, "The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong." In relationships, a woman who can read energy often inspires both admiration and fear in men. Admiration because she knows even when he says nothing. Fear because he cannot hide behind masks. Some men may avoid her, but those mature enough will see this as the gateway to true intimacy, a space where there are no lies, only genuine presence. If you recognize this ability within yourself, do not view it as a burden. Learn to listen to your intuition, but also set boundaries to protect yourself. Because the world needs people like you, emotional radars who see through illusions, who dare to touch the invisible that others avoid. And from this personal energy reading ability, another doorway opens. The doorway to connect with collective wisdom, where dreams, symbols, and meaningful coincidences become the very language of the universe. Number 2. Connection with the collective unconscious. Perhaps you have had a strange dream where seemingly meaningless images left behind a haunting aftertaste. A rushing river, an old house, a wolf emerging in the dark. Upon waking, you wonder, why did I dream that? Yet weeks later, you realize the river mirrors emotions overflowing in your life, while the wolf represents a fear you have never faced. Dreams like these do not come only from personal subconscious. Carl Jung called them voices of the collective unconscious, the reservoir of humanity's shared spiritual heritage, transcending time and culture. Jung believed humans do not only carry personal memories, but also primordial images, archetypes, that have existed for millennia. For women with high spiritual intelligence, the gateway to the collective unconscious is always open. They do not only encounter symbols in dreams, but also witness them repeating in reality through meaningful coincidences, synchronicity. I once knew a woman named Helena, living in Italy. She often dreamt the same dream, standing amid a vast ocean, and from afar, a white dove flew toward her and perched on her shoulder. At first she thought it was random, but one day, during a church service, when the priest spoke of the Holy Spirit manifesting in the form of a dove, she felt shivers all over her body. Months later, during a pilgrimage, she happened to see an ancient statue of the Virgin Mary with a dove on her shoulder. It was no longer coincidence. For Helena, it was a reminder that her journey was not merely personal, but connected to a spiritual current flowing through ages. But why are these women more attuned to humanity's shared wisdom? Jung suggested it is because their ego is not too rigid. Rather than closing off, they have the softness to open and receive signals from deeper life, yet still remain grounded. Like a half-open window, light and wind flow in, yet the house stands firm. For them, collective wisdom is not something far away, but something woven into daily life. Their lives gradually become a map of symbols. They read these not for fortune-telling or to feel special, but to connect more deeply with themselves and the world. This does not mean they blindly believe every sign. True wisdom lies in translating symbols into practical action. A dream of the ocean urges them to face overwhelming emotions instead of avoiding them. The image of an old house calls them to visit parents and heal relationships. A sequence of synchronicities encourages them to trust the path they are on. This is the role of translator Jung described, the woman who turns symbolic language into concrete life directions. Of course, this gift comes with challenges. Others may dismiss them as delusional, superstitious, or overly sensitive. But to them, the experience feels as real as breath. They do not need to prove it to the world, for they themselves feel the connection. And that is what sets them apart: their trust in the invisible flow, their steadiness in knowing the universe whispers in symbols. If you have ever had recurring strange dreams or experienced coincidences too precise to ignore, you too may be stepping into the doorway of the collective unconscious. Do not rush to dismiss them. Listen, record, reflect. For perhaps they are the spiritual map your soul needs to find its way back home. And when you learn to read this map, you will see you are never alone. You are standing in a shared current, one that millions of souls across generations have also listened to, learned from, and grown through. Have you ever dreamt of a strange image recurring, or encountered a coincidence so uncanny it gave you chills? Share in the comments the most meaningful symbol or synchronicity you've experienced. Perhaps it is the very language the universe wants to speak to you. Number 3. Sacred solitude. From dreams, symbols, and synchronicities of the collective unconscious, another doorway opens: the need to return to silence. For when a woman connects to humanity's shared current, she realizes wisdom does not shout loudly, it whispers in quiet. She seeks solitude not out of loneliness, nor to escape the world. She chooses solitude because only in silence can the truest voice of the soul arise. It might be when she journals, each line becoming a dialogue with herself. It might be meditation, where breath carries her into the depths of her mind. Or early morning, sitting with tea, watching sunlight through the window, tasting an indescribable peace. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Sacred solitude is the moment she turns inward to awaken. While others search for joy in crowds, she calmly steps inward for answers. Many women, after long years of relentless work, feel drained. I was surrounded by hundreds of people, but I could not hear my own voice. And so they pause, disconnect from noise, and spend days only writing, painting, or sitting quietly. In that silence, buried fears surface, and confronting them becomes healing. For them, solitude is not frightening, but a ritual of returning to self. Sacred solitude is different from loneliness. Loneliness is being forced into emptiness. Solitude is choosing to be alone to nourish the soul. A woman with high spiritual intelligence does not fear silence. She knows it is fertile soil where seeds of wisdom sprout. In silence, they create. Many women find artistic inspiration in hours alone, writing, painting, composing music, even cooking in meditative spirit. In silence, they heal. Just minutes of stillness, observing breath, dissolve worries. The noise settles, revealing inner clarity. Like a lake, when waves stop, it naturally reflects the clear sky. Not everyone understands this choice. Family may think she is sad, friends may think she is withdrawing, society labels her unusual. But to her, it is how she preserves energy and nourishes wisdom. She knows if she keeps running in society's cycle, she will lose connection to her true self, and she accepts being misunderstood as long as she stays true to herself. Sacred solitude has existed in many traditions. Zen masters retreat to mountains to hear the heart. Christian hermits enter monasteries to converse with God in silence. In the Bible, Jesus withdrew to the desert for 40 days of prayer before his mission. Women with high spiritual intelligence, though not nuns, instinctively live this, sometimes withdrawing to touch the sacred voice within. If you have ever been exhausted by surrounding noise, give yourself a few moments of stillness. No need for ceremony. Just turn off your phone, sit alone in your room, or walk in a park. Let the mind rest so the inner voice can arise. You may be surprised to see what once seemed tangled slowly become clear. Sacred solitude is the laboratory of the soul, where social dust settles so the true self emerges. For women with high spiritual intelligence, it is not sacrifice or punishment, but nourishment. And when they step out of silence, they carry new light, the light of clarity, wisdom, and compassion. Number 4. Turning suffering into wisdom. If sacred solitude is the necessary pause for women with high spiritual intelligence to hear their inner voice, then what they often find in that stillness is not only peace. Many times, the deepest wounds resurface: fear of abandonment, traumatic memories, untouched fragments of the soul. And here begins another journey, the journey of turning suffering into wisdom, wounds into guiding light. In ancient Sumerian mythology, there is a story of the goddess Inanna, goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. One day she decided to descend into the underworld, where darkness and death reigned. The path was not easy. To pass 7 gates, she had to surrender each symbol of power: crown, jewelry, robe. At the final gate, she was utterly stripped, with nothing left to cling to. There, Inanna faced death, hung lifeless for 3 dark days before being resurrected, returning with wisdom deeper than any power she once held. Inanna's story is a metaphor for the inner journey of women with high spiritual intelligence. They understand that to reach true light, there is no detour. They do not deny darkness, nor pretend wounds vanish. Instead, they descend into pain, confront loss, and emerge reborn with new depth. Jung called this the transcendent function, the ability to hold tension between opposing poles, light and dark, hope and despair, joy and suffering, until a higher state of consciousness emerges. Many women have endured great upheavals: a broken marriage, a wounded childhood, or irreparable loss. At first, these wounds feel like abysses swallowing them, leaving them exhausted and hopeless. But rather than staying at the edge, they step down, living through the pain. They cry, collapse, but do not deny it. And one day, in silence, they realize pain itself was the doorway. Passing through, they are no longer the same. They carry new wisdom, empathy, compassion, and inner strength never known before. Carl Jung once observed, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." For these women, it is absolutely true. They do not fear pain, for they know it is the very ground of awakening. There is a beautiful metaphor in Japanese pottery. Cracks in a broken bowl are not hidden, but filled with gold through the art of kintsugi, becoming the most precious part of the vessel. Women with high spiritual intelligence are the same. Their scars, instead of making them less perfect, become golden lines through which their souls shine, turning them into gifts to the world. This is why many women who have endured suffering carry a unique magnetism. They no longer hide wounds nor feel ashamed of them. Instead, they live with a serene calm, radiating the energy of truth. Others feel safe around them because they know, with such a woman, they do not need to pretend. Turning suffering into wisdom is not an easy path. It demands courage to face darkness, patience to remain in grief without avoidance, and honesty not to repaint the past. But when crossed, the reward is priceless. A soul no longer bound by the past, a heart wide enough to love, and wisdom deep enough to illuminate others. This is the fourth invisible trait of women with high spiritual intelligence. They do not flee pain, but turn it into a doorway to wisdom. Wounds become thresholds, scars become evidence, and empathy becomes strength. And so we see that sometimes it is through cracks that light enters. Before moving on, take a moment of silence. If you too believe that pain is not only to break you, but to open new depths in your soul, leave a short comment. I choose to turn pain into wisdom. Perhaps those small words will become a golden glimmer rising from your own cracks, and an inspiration for someone lost in darkness. Number 5. Communicating through presence. Having walked through darkness and turned suffering into wisdom, women with high spiritual intelligence no longer need to prove anything through theory or words. The light they carry is not in speech, but radiates from their very presence. From wounds transformed into strength, they learn another language, the language of silence, of eyes, of serene aura. Such women need few words. Their mere presence is enough to bring peace. Not a false calm, but serenity that flows like a cool stream from the deepest heart. She may simply sit still, yet anyone near feels uplifted. According to Jung, when someone truly connects with their essence, they emit a frequency others can sense, even without words. Thus, women with high spiritual intelligence often communicate more through presence than through speech. They treat words as sacred. Not that they never speak, but they speak sparingly, precisely, deeply. Each word is weighed like a seed planted in the soil of another's soul. They do not speak to fill silence, only when truly needed. And so, when they do speak, people listen, because their words carry the weight of lived experience, not theory. Their silence is not empty, but full. Like the night sky, seemingly void yet brimming with stars. In that silence, others feel seen and understood, even without explanation. This is a higher form of communication, beyond reason, touching directly the heart. I once witnessed a moving scene. In a hospital, a woman sat beside her friend who had just lost a loved one. She did not say, "Everything will be okay," nor lecture about impermanence. She simply held her friend's hand, sat quietly. Without a word, her calm gaze and warm hand became the only anchor amid grief. That moment revealed, sometimes salvation is not advice, but the sense that someone truly stays with you. That is communication through presence, a communication no school teaches, but which anyone on a spiritual path understands. In daily life, these women rarely show off. You may see them at work, in family, in community, not loud, not seeking spotlight, yet anyone near them feels soothed. A stressed colleague, after minutes with them, feels lighter. A panicked child, held in their arms, stops crying. This is not magic, but the natural outcome of an inner life cleansed and anchored in peace. The key is, they know how to manage energy. Their presence heals, because they do not waste energy on meaningless arguments or toxic relationships. They know when to open, when to close, to protect their inner clarity. Thus, when with others, they are fully present, undistracted, genuine. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Encountering a woman with high spiritual intelligence, transformation often happens in silence. You enter burdened, leave lighter, inexplicably. The remarkable thing is, such women never call themselves healers. They do not need that label. They simply live fully, authentically, and that becomes invisible medicine for others. Notice too that this presence not only helps others, but also themselves. When they communicate through presence, they no longer strain to explain or prove, they simply are. This is the highest level of communication. Not through words, not through masks, but through authentic being. And precisely because this presence is so real, she also becomes a mirror where every falsehood around her is easily revealed. And this leads us to another distinct ability: the capacity to distinguish truth from falsehood, a subtle intuition not everyone possesses. Number 6. The wisdom to discern truth from falsehood. In a world where anyone can put on a mask, from polished social media profiles to flowery words, the ability to discern truth from falsehood becomes a rare gift. Women with high spiritual intelligence often possess a third eye, the ability to recognize what is genuine and what is merely performance. This ability does not come from cynicism, but from intuition honed through inner experience. Because they have walked through pain, faced their own shadows, they know the real signals of human emotion. A forced smile, an avoiding glance, a trembling voice, all are languages they read. While others get lost in surfaces, they see through to essence. Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Precisely because they value authenticity, they are keenly sensitive to anything false. When they meet someone who is only acting, or witness a spiritual movement inflated without depth, they do not need lengthy reasoning. They simply know. In life, this helps them avoid being swept away by collective illusions. Many chase after trends promising instant enlightenment or forced positivity where pain is buried under fake smiles. But women with high spiritual intelligence are different. They instantly sense where avoidance masquerades as truth. They understand that no one can walk into true light without first daring to face darkness. At a Healing with Energy workshop I once attended, many eagerly spoke of unconditional love and no need to face pain. But one woman sat silently, not clapping with the crowd. Afterward, when asked, she simply said, "If we don't dare to face our wounds, that love is only a curtain, not truth." Her words were not ornate, yet the whole group fell silent. Sometimes this ability makes them misunderstood as difficult or too sensitive, but in reality they are simply honest. They do not easily follow the crowd, nor are they easily deceived by collective illusions. In their eyes, many things may sound attractive, but without authenticity, they eventually collapse. They choose to stand firm in truth, even if it sets them apart. What is admirable is that they do not use this gift to judge or belittle others. On the contrary, they often remain silent observers. They understand each person has their own journey, and sometimes falsehood is just a temporary shell for self-protection. But when someone is truly ready, they can be the mirror that helps them see the mask they wear and dare to take it off. The wisdom of discernment is also how they keep their own inner purity. In a chaotic world, without this eye, people easily get caught in artificial cycles where everything is polished to hide emptiness. But thanks to this intuition, they know how to select what to welcome and reject what clouds the soul. Perhaps this is why they are rarely manipulated in relationships. From the beginning, they sense imbalance in the other's energy. They may remain polite and kind, but they do not let themselves be drawn into games of deceit. This gift is both shield and guiding light. In the depth of Jungian psychology, this is the subtle work of consciousness integrated with the shadow. Once someone has accepted and faced their own darkness, they are no longer easily fooled by external gloss. The wisdom of discernment, therefore, is not about judging appearances, but the fruit of an inner reconciliation. A woman with high spiritual intelligence does not seek loud truths. She simply lives with them quietly, letting truth be her compass. And that authenticity makes her shine, a light not dazzling, but steady, impossible to counterfeit. If these words remind you that authenticity is more precious than any polished facade, leave a like as your way of choosing to live true to yourself. Perhaps that small click becomes a reminder to someone else too, that truth always outlasts falsehood. So tell me, in your view, is a spiritually intelligent woman's magnetism made up more of her wide compassion or of her boundaries that prevent self-loss? Share your ratio in the comments. Perhaps the number you choose reflects the way you yourself perceive the invisible strength of a mature inner woman. Number 7. The wisdom of energetic boundaries. One of the greatest challenges for women with sensitive hearts is learning to give without losing themselves. Their compassion is deep, their empathy vast. But without boundaries, that love easily becomes a burden, pulling them into exhaustion. This is why women with high spiritual intelligence gradually learn a master lesson. True love must go hand in hand with awareness. Such a woman knows when to open and when to close. Like one tending a fire on a winter's night, she is ready to share warmth, but does not let anyone extinguish the flame. To her, boundaries are not walls of resistance, but fences of protection, so love can be sustained. A woman working in caregiving once shared that her daily job was to support those suffering illness and psychological crisis. At first, she absorbed all the patient's pain, went home crying, sleepless, gradually becoming burned out. But over time, she learned that real help does not mean carrying others' pain, but being present and giving without dissolving into it. When she set limits, resting, caring for herself, saying no to requests beyond her capacity, she did not love less, but her love became purer and more enduring. Jung once said that a soul not reconciled with its inner darkness is easily swept away by outer darkness. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. By daring to face and illuminate their own shadows, these women gain the strength to maintain boundaries, preventing love from turning into draining sacrifice. Think of a garden. If you leave the gate open day and night, anyone can trample flowers, take fruits, and in the end only bare soil remains. But if you close the gate when needed, opening only to those who truly cherish the beauty inside, the garden continues to flourish, fragrant, nourishing not only you, but also your visitors. A woman's energetic boundaries work the same way. Not selfishness, but preservation of her soul's life force. In relationships, this wisdom becomes clear. A woman with high spiritual intelligence loves without dissolving. She uplifts, but does not collude with dependence. She can listen to her partner's laments, but she dares to say no when feeling exploited. She can hold a grieving friend, yet stays lucid not to drown in their despair. Her love is like a river, gentle, refreshing, but with clear banks, so it does not flood into chaos. These boundaries keep her inner self clean. In a world full of chaos and negative energy, without closure, she would soon be depleted. But with preservation, she can give more, deeper, longer. The special thing is, her boundaries are not built on anger or defense, but on love and self-awareness. When she says no, it is not rejection of love, but protection of long-term ability to love. When she keeps distance, it is not coldness, but preservation of a clear heart to keep radiating. With this wisdom, she becomes a mirror for others. Many once believed love meant sacrifice and self-erasure, but encountering such a woman, they realize true love is giving while remaining whole. And only then is love enduring. If you too feel easily swept by others' emotions, try learning from them. Set a boundary. Listen to your body. Allow yourself to rest. Only when you keep the inner flame alive can you continue to shine for the world. Number 8. Humility in simplicity, returning to the ordinary on a higher plane. From learning to guard energetic boundaries, another doorway opens, the doorway of simplicity. Once a woman has learned to protect her inner flame, she no longer needs to prove she is special to be recognized. She returns to ordinary life, but on a deeper level, where every small action carries spiritual meaning. The more they mature, the simpler they become. They do not flaunt enlightenment, nor use ornate words to affirm themselves. Instead, they become living proof, so that others, in their presence, simply feel it without being told. Carl Jung called this return to simplicity, coming back to the simple after walking through both light and darkness. Not a circle returning to the same place, but a spiral upwards. You arrive at the old spot, but with new vision. In everyday life, you may meet women who have walked profound inner journeys, but you would be surprised at their simple lifestyle. They may wear ordinary clothes, live in a small house, talk like anyone else. But what you remember is not appearance, but the peace you feel when leaving them. They do not need to do anything grand. Their presence alone teaches you what it means to be anchored. Someone once said that each time she visited her aunt, a simple woman without fame or position, she always felt as if she stepped into a temple, even though they only sat by the stove drinking tea. That is the invisible power of simplicity. It makes others sense the sacred within the ordinary. In history and public life we see this too. Think of Mother Teresa, the woman who devoted her life to serving the poor in India. She never needed to prove she was special. On the contrary, she lived so simply that it was hard to believe someone with such influence wore the same white and blue sari for decades. But it was precisely that simplicity that made her powerful. She became a global icon, not by shouting slogans, but by holding hands of the dying, by small gestures of care. Mother Teresa was clear proof of spiritual wisdom. True strength lies not in what we say, but in how we live and show up. Modern science also begins to explain this. Positive psychology research shows that those who maintain simple, humble lifestyles have higher levels of satisfaction and inner peace. Neuroscientist Richard Davidson discovered that the brains of people who live mindfully and simply show stronger activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region linked to compassion, clarity, and emotional regulation. In other words, simplicity is not only philosophy, but also a biological state that stabilizes and opens the mind. What all these women share is that they no longer crave recognition as different. After walking through darkness, reaching inner depths, they realize every display is illusion. What remains is authenticity. And authenticity often comes with humility. They may achieve success, may be respected, but inside they choose to live ordinarily, blending into life, not placing themselves above others. The paradox is that this humility creates powerful magnetism. In a world of constant display, where everyone wants attention, a calm, simple person becomes rare. They do not try to attract, yet others cannot look away. They do not declare themselves enlightened, yet each small gesture makes others want to learn. That is the invisible power of simplicity, a kind of spiritual authority that cannot be faked. Carl Jung once emphasized, "Austerity enforces simplicity, which is true happiness." When a woman truly returns to herself in simplicity, she needs to prove nothing more. That return itself is the greatest gift, for herself and for the world. A woman who embodies these 8 invisible traits is like an underground stream, not noisy, not showy, yet nourishing an entire forest above. Her spiritual wisdom cannot be measured by diplomas or applause, but radiates through peace, authenticity, and the way she lives each day. Her strength does not lie in trying to be someone else, but in daring to fully live as her true self. That is why anyone who encounters such a woman feels the difference, not dazzling appearance, but a quiet light touching the soul. If you recognize yourself in these traits, it is not a coincidence. It is a reminder that spiritual wisdom is already within you, waiting for your listening and nurturing. And if you believe the world needs more women shining with such a peaceful and profound presence, share this video with those you cherish. Do not forget to hit subscribe to continue our journey of discovering the hidden wisdom in every person, because sometimes a single ray of your light is enough to awaken the darkness of the world. If I told you that your mind operates on a frequency that 99% of people out there cannot hear, cannot comprehend, would you believe me? Perhaps you felt different at times, felt out of place amidst shallow conversations, felt exhausted from having to simplify my thoughts for others to understand, felt that your inner world is deeper, more layered than anyone around you could imagine. This is not a coincidence. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychoanalyst, devoted his life to studying these rare types of minds. He discovered that there exists a small but extraordinary group of people capable of connecting with the depths of consciousness that most of humanity cannot reach. These individuals are not merely intelligent. They see through reality, read symbols, and are drawn to the truth beneath the surface. If you've ever wondered why you always feel like an alien living among humans, perhaps your mind belongs to that rare 1%. In this video, we will decode 8 profound signs that indicate you possess a type of thinking most people cannot fathom. But beware, the 8th sign might completely transform the way you perceive yourself. Sign 1. You think in patterns and invisible connections. Have you ever sat in a room full of people, listening to a seemingly simple conversation, while everyone else grasps only the literal meaning of words, but your mind weaves a vast tapestry? You don't just hear words. You hear the silences between them, sense the discrepancy between tone and gaze, and see the invisible threads tying that conversation to memories, past experiences, and even possibilities yet to unfold. This is the hallmark of a rare mind, thinking in patterns and invisible connections. Carl Jung called this the power of introverted intuition, a faculty not for step-by-step logical reasoning, but for perceiving the bigger picture that most overlook. While the majority follow a straight path, you enter a labyrinth and still find your way out because you don't need a map. You see the shape of the labyrinth from the start. Others see data. You see the relationships between them. Others see scattered black dots. You connect them into constellations. This explains why you often predict accurately what's about to happen, not because you're good at guessing, but because your mind perceives the hidden currents beneath the surface. When reading a novel, you might foresee the ending just by noticing a seemingly trivial detail. When talking to someone, you sometimes finish their sentences before they speak because you sense the trajectory of their thoughts. Imagine your mind as both a microscope and a telescope. You peer into the tiniest details while also gazing out at the vast cosmos to see broader connections. When a friend shares their current sadness, others hear only, "I'm sad." But you see the flow of childhood memories, fragments of old wounds, and the silent undercurrent of emotions waiting to erupt. This isn't just empathy. It's the ability to connect layers of the unconscious that Jung called the collective unconscious, the realm where humanity's shared patterns, archetypes, and memories reside. This ability is both a gift and a burden. A gift because it makes you a decoder of the world. You don't need anyone to show you the way, as invisible connections flash in your mind like lightning. But it also makes you a stranger among the majority. When you share your insights, some may shake their heads, looking at you as if you're speaking an alien language. Because they cannot see what you see, to them, you seem overly imaginative, but to you, it's simply the obvious truth. Recall the last time you watched a romantic movie. Others cried when the characters parted ways, but you felt that separation from their first glance in the opening scene. You noticed the unconscious signals, the hesitation, the avoidance, the fleeting insecurity that most viewers miss. To you, the world always holds a hidden layer, a second wave of meaning, and your task seems to be to decipher it. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." For you, reality is not just fragmented pieces of information, but a tapestry woven from countless invisible threads, each leading to a greater meaning. This is why you often feel out of place. You're tuned to a frequency most of humanity cannot pick up. The world needs people like you for this ability to connect the invisible bridges between the tangible and intangible, the conscious and unconscious, the surface of reality and the truth beneath. But remember, this gift only becomes true power when you use it to unlock understanding, not to isolate yourself. Sometimes your task is not just to see, but to convey what you see in a way others can grasp. Sign 2. You experience reality through multiple layers. If the first sign shows that you see invisible connections between events, the second goes even deeper. You never view the world through a single flat plane. Reality for you is not a two-dimensional painting, but a multi-dimensional one, where every detail carries hidden layers of meaning. Others read life like a newspaper, seeing words as they are. You, however, hold a thick book with transparent pages, each revealing a new secret. Carl Jung called this psychological depth, the ability to go beyond the obvious and sense the hidden layers beneath. When someone smiles and says, "I'm fine," most hear only the words. But you see the tension in their eyes, the slight tremor in their voice, the silence between their words. You recognize that their words are a thin mask, beneath which flows an unspoken current of emotions. For you, every experience extends beyond the surface, opening into parallel dimensions of meaning. Pause for 10 seconds, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and recall a recent "I'm fine" moment. What was the second layer whispering to you? Imagine walking into a room. Ordinary people notice the wall color, the furniture, and the lighting. But you don't just see the room, you feel its energy, the fragments of memory imprinted on the walls, the tension in how the host arranged the furniture, the silence that hides an untold story. Every space, every person, is like a novel with multiple layers of text overlapping. Others read the bold print. You read the faint print, the marginal notes, the spaces between paragraphs. This makes you someone who is never satisfied with the surface. In a debate, while others argue over right and wrong, you see that what they truly seek isn't truth but validation, the need to prove their ego, or even the fear of abandonment. You perceive the deeper layer they are unaware of, and so you often stay silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because you know your explanation would be too complex for how they view the issue. Jung emphasized, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. With a multi-layered mind, you not only recognize irritation or conflict in others, but also use it as a mirror to reflect on yourself. A furrowed brow from someone across from you might spark an inner journey. Why does this affect me? What's hidden within me? For you, reality is always dual, both the world story and a reflection of your inner self. This also explains why you often feel lonely in your understanding. When you share a multi-layered observation, others might frown, thinking you're overcomplicating things. But you know the world is inherently complex. Most people choose to live on the calm surface of the lake, while you see the undercurrents below. This awareness is both a blessing and a challenge. Jung believed those with this ability often become bridges between the unconscious and the conscious. By sensing hidden layers, you not only see the problem, but can translate the language of the unconscious into something others might begin to understand. You become a storyteller through symbols and metaphors, turning the vague into something tangible. Others may not see the depths, but through you, they can touch them indirectly. Sign 3. You are drawn to the dark side of humanity. The next sign explains why you can't turn away from what others avoid. You are drawn to the dark side of humanity. Carl Jung called this the shadow. He believed that within each person lies a hidden part of the self. Desires, anger, fears, and weaknesses we refuse to acknowledge. Ordinary people try to bury this darkness, like shoving unwanted items into a dusty attic and locking the door. But you are different. You not only know the attic exists, you want to open the door, step inside, and listen to the echoes from that place. Others seek only the light. You understand that no light is complete without facing the darkness. This explains why you might spend hours analyzing a villain in a movie rather than the hero. To you, the villain isn't simply evil. They are a mirror reflecting the rejected parts of every person. You don't seek the macabre, you seek the truth about human nature. Recall the last time you read about a crime in the news. While the crowd stops at outrage, you wonder, what in their childhood or unconscious drove them to act this way? What unhealed wound lies behind their cruelty? Others think you're too empathetic. But in truth, you're practicing Jung's principle, not judging the phenomenon, but understanding the psychological mechanisms within. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You understand this intuitively. You know that fleeing the darkness only makes it more dangerous. What we deny controls us from the unconscious. Only by naming it, facing it, can the light of consciousness become enduring. And somehow, you are always compelled to dig into that forbidden territory. This doesn't mean you admire or condone evil. On the contrary, you want to see the whole picture, humanity as both noble and base, light and dark, angelic and demonic. You are drawn to this paradox. Like staring at a classical painting, others focus on the central figure, but you fixate on the shadowed corners, knowing they make the light more radiant. In everyday life, this attraction makes you attuned to stories others wish to forget. Conversations about depression, broken marriages, the fear of abandonment, or secrets hidden behind polite smiles. You might listen patiently to others' confessions without flinching, unafraid of their ugliness. Unconsciously, this makes people turn to you as a pillar of support, though sometimes you feel weighed down by carrying the world's darker stories on your shoulders. This ability sets you apart. While society likes to divide the world into black and white, right and wrong, good and evil, you see that the boundary is so fragile that it barely exists. A person can be kind in one context, yet cruel in another. A hero may hide cowardice, and a criminal might act out of love. Seeing these contradictions, you understand the complexity of human nature more deeply. And this is where you differ from the 99%. Most people need simplicity to feel safe. This person is good, that one is bad. But you reject that mindset. You want to step into the gray, the ambiguous, where everything is both beautiful and terrifying. This isn't pessimism. It's the sign of a psychologically mature and evolved mind. Sign 4. You feel like you're speaking a different language. If your fascination with the shadow draws you to explore realms others deliberately avoid, an inevitable consequence arises. You begin to feel as though you're speaking a different language. Carl Jung called this psychological loneliness, not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the isolation of operating within a system of symbols entirely distinct from others. You don't merely utter words, you convey a structure of ideas, a web of associations, a tapestry of emotions rich with layers of meaning. Yet, most listeners grasp only the surface of your words. They look at you, nod politely, or sometimes stare in confusion as if you're speaking an alien tongue. Recall those moments when you shared an observation that seemed obvious to you. He said that, but he's probably more afraid than angry. To you, the statement is simple because you see the signals hidden behind the words. But others might look at you as if you've conjured something out of thin air. It feels like standing in a room, speaking in a clear voice, but everyone hears only distorted, incomprehensible sounds. You're transmitting in high definition, but they only have an AM radio to receive your signal. In everyday conversations, you often feel the need to simplify your thoughts. Instead of sharing the full picture with its 10 vibrant colors, you're forced to reduce it to 2 just so others can keep up. And when you